it's Brittany here, and finally we are going back to making this bridal gown that we started last year, and the client has finally fitted it. And what I usually do at a fitting or afterwards is I write out everything that we covered in the fitting. So on this one we've got bodice, back skirt, and strap modifications that we need to do on this one. Nothing for the front skirt, which is nice. That all worked out nicely. Just a couple things like taking in some guidelines in the armhole, some princess seam taking in, lowering the neckline on the back, and then just altering the seam allowances so they're a bit narrower because we don't need such wide hems when we're doing the final dress. And because we're lowering the back, we have to make the straps a little bit longer. So for the first bodice modifications here is she'd like the neckline lowered a little bit. I think it was around 2 inches, two and a quarter or something. And so I'm dividing the piece in half to find the center. And I'm measuring it down the amount that I want. And I always make little dots when I do fittings so that, you know, she'd like it here, and then I just sort of make it an even measurement so that it's easy to remember, or usually it is. So now I've gotten it kind of close to where I want it to go, and I already had kind of made a faint line of kind of the curve that following her actual body. But now I'm just sort of going over that and making it nice and clean with my French curve. And that will get a nice lowered neckline. And I believe I have facing pieces still to do for this, to sort of keep that shape of the curve in the neckline. So I will have to do some little pieces for that. We are going to take in the princess seams at this point here, where it was a little, I wanted it a little bit more snug on her. And just to take it. Now these are the guidelines for the armholes, and they are just gonna stay like little makeshift darts. They are where the fabric is gaping when it's on the body. So I'm just evening out the armhole again, matching the seam line. And for the back, she wanted it again lowered. So we're making it more of an open back, and to get rid of that, I've made some little marks of where she'd like it to be, and we're just pretty much doing the same thing we did with the neckline, which is measuring that out and then drawing with the French curve to join those new seam lines here. And if there's any gaping on this line, we have that side seam to be able to take in from. But there shouldn't be. I don't imagine there would be. It's a quite open back. It's going to be right along the side of her body. Now I've taken the bodice and I've taken it apart and ironed it out. And now we're able to use our French curve again to make that new seam line, taking it in a little bit at the princess seam there and joining it up again to the bust point. And I'll do that on both sides, the side bodice and the front bodice, and get that nice and taken in. It's nice to work with a different color pen as well. I find that very helpful. Sometimes I even use a different color when I'm doing the seam allowances so that I know between a seam allowance and a seam, just to make it more clear, which is what I'm doing now. Is we don't need such wide seams for the actual dress in some areas where it was 1 inch. So that would be like the waist seam. I like to do all vertical and horizontal, like a waist seam in a 1 inch for the muslin, just to give extra room in case I have to let it out. But like everything like necklines and armholes should still be 1 inch or half an inch when we're doing the muslin. You can do more, it's just more clipping that you would have to do to accommodate the curves of the neckline and stuff. Sorry my voice is raspy because I am getting over a cold, so bear with me. And we're just pretty much doing that on every piece here, ignoring our old seam lines and creating new seam allowances on each of the, so this is where it's been taken in, and I'm drawing the new seam allowance line. And after we do that, we are simply just going to trim off that excess there so we have our brand new pieces. Now we're all done that. With small pieces like this that, you know, if I get it in the wrong orientation, I won't know which is which, so I make sure I mark like waist seam or center back like I did here, just so I know which direction it's going. Also, there will be notches, but just to be clear and I know which way to put the grain line, it's nice to have. Because of the point of where this is supposed to join with the side back, I want to true up the edges. It's called truing. It makes it so when you're joining them on the fabric that the seam allowances have the same angles and that you can make sure that the seams are matching in the right way. So I do that by matching up the seams and then trimming off that extra point so that when you lay them flat, you see it makes a nice straight seam allowance as well as the seam. Right there. Yeah, looks wonderful. Now we're on to the back skirt and we're lowering it 2 1/4, it looks like, which is where I marked it on the muslin originally in the fitting. So I made it a tiny bit lower just so it was even, but I'm using that center back piece to make sure I get it in the right spot here on the center back so that they match. So I'm marking that on the new back skirt. And then we should be joining those lines again with the French curve as we did in the neckline, just to make a nice straight line again. There's one more adjustment we have to make on the skirt, which is letting it out just a tiny bit, 1/2 inch on each side, which equals 1 inch. This will give a little bit more room. It was a bit hard to get on, so I want her to be most comfortable as she can be. You don't really want wedding dresses too tight because you can't sit, you can't breathe. I mean, it is a stressful day, so things shouldn't be as tight as people sometimes would want, but so I'm letting it out just a little bit just to give her more room, and we'll see how that goes. Now we have the under mini skirt to do the same thing with the back so that they match up, because they will be attached to each other, because this overlay is going to be lace, so we want to pretty much copy that same shape, the same amount of distance down, and just make it so I'm making little dashed lines, and then I'm gonna, when I cut out the overlay curve, I'm gonna match them up and make sure that they are the same, and I'm making sure that the line matches the center back piece. That is going to go with inlace as well. So 2 layers to this dress, and then plus lining, so it is going to be quite pretty. I'm excited to show you guys the fabric. It's going to look really nice. So I'm just continuing on that same mini skirt piece. I'm doing the extra room at the side here, that 1/2 inch that I have to add, and doing pretty much the same thing with the seam allowance down the whole front. And I think I will leave this 2-inch hem on this mini skirt just in case she decides to change the length. We could always take it up in the fitting, because it's a short skirt, so I want to make sure that yes, this is the length that she wants when she sees it, totally with the lace on top, and just as a safe assurance, which is always good. Hems are easy to do. Now I'm taking out the dart to get the mini skirt all flat, and redo those darts so I know where the dart points are, and I will make little notches before we cut out from the fabric. And hey, that's all the alterations we have to do on this muslin, and next we'll be cutting it out of the beautiful fabric. It's gonna be amazing. I can't wait for you guys to see it. In the meantime, thanks for watching and happy sewing.